Today is a big day, and I'm super excited as we launch the Landing Zone video podcast and our new YouTube channel. This forum is used to help service members, spouses, and veterans find their next career by providing them with information, resources, and motivational stories. Our first guest is Marine Corps Reservist and the military recruiter on my team at UPS, Eric Wesolowski. Eric, welcome.
Yeah, Lloyd, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on, especially for the first the video podcast here. Super
Yeah,
excited.
super excited. Yeah, I have a common saying that I had never much needed Marines when I was in the Air Force, but love Marines now and surround myself with Marines. And Kevin Horgan is a Marine Corps veteran. He was my first audio podcast participant, and awesome to have another Marine as we kick off this video podcast and the YouTube channel. Now, Eric, I know this answer, but let our listeners and our viewers know where you're originally from.
Yeah, so I was actually born in Ventura, California. My dad was in the oil field industry at the time, and so he got transferred out to Oklahoma. And so I grew up and was raised in small town Oklahoma for about 22 years or so before I joined the service there. But yeah, I think I graduated with a class of 50 in my high school graduation. So going from ninth grade to 12th, we had the same group of people all the way to the end there. So yeah, super small town.
So I know you're a Cowboys fan, and we won't hold that against you. Yeah, but you're from Oklahoma and you're living in Texas, and I'm going to make you pick a favorite college football team.
So I'm gonna have to go with growing up Oklahoma Sooners. We spent some time going to the OU Sooners games all the time. A mix between OSU and OU, but I would say my go-to college football team that I have to show respect to is definitely OU for sure.
All right, OU. So I'm a Boise State fan.
Are you
So
blue
so so
filled?
yeah. So I think we have a big victory against Oklahoma.
That's
But,
true. I remember that game. That was a shock, a very big shock at that time.
yeah, it was an incredible game, like the greatest game ever played.
Mhm.
And I hate to say it, when Jared Zabransky threw the interception, I got mad and went to bed. So, so I didn't wake up. I didn't hear about it and see it until I woke up the next morning, going, "Oh my gosh, what
I
what?"
remember what year was that, Lloyd? I remember that now that you say that. Because they
Uh,
played at Boise State, I think, at that time.
so yeah, it was Boise State. It was the Fiesta Bowl,
That's right.
and
That's
I
right.
forget which year. Yeah. So uh, got to know you were in this small town in Oklahoma. What attracted you to the join the Marine Corps?
Growing up, I always had a passion for dressing up in camouflage and for always playing guns with the neighborhood kids. I'm sure if you were to ask my parents, my mom and dad about growing up, I would just get this big smile. And I tell you, I always wanted growing up, every time we went to Sam's Club, I always wanted a wetsuit. I never got a wetsuit as a kid, but I got one when I was in the service. I always wanted a wetsuit. And then I always loved to go into surplus store to pick out, a set of fatigues and a the water, a canteen or whatever it was. But yeah, ask my parents. I always loved going into surplus store. And then, fast forward, here I am, joined about 13 years as a Marine. So,
So how hard was Marine Corps basic training? Is it everything that you see on TV?
it was a culture shock. You jump on a plane. I mean, they put you in a hotel room, the night before by yourself. So, it already starts to sink in. And that's the worst part is just downtime. And then the next day you're on a plane and you find yourself on the famous yellow footprints. And, it's just chaos there for the next 3 months until, you graduate and then you go to more chaos. But I would say it was definitely a culture shock going through and because nobody is used to that type of environment. And then you go through and it makes you the type of person you are today. And so I wouldn't trade anything going back. I learned a lot of different things especially going through boot camp. A lot about your personal self.
Yeah,
So,
I think we had a discussion before about just the diversity,
yeah,
of being around a totally different people from different walks of life and different experiences.
yeah, you're sleeping, you're eating, you're doing everything with all walks of life for for your time being, whether it's in training and courses or in deployments. So,
And what career field did you sign up for?
so I signed in the infantry. I did. I was in the infantry for quite some time, and then fast forward, I became a team leader, so in charge of four guys, and then I became a squad leader. Had the opportunity to go to a few different courses, learning how to lead Marines, which were super beneficial, even to today. Um, uh, Going through some of those things, and so I became a squad leader, and then I wanted to do something a little bit more for myself. And so one of my really good friends, he's actually he went even further. He's actually a Marine, a MARSOC, a Raider. Now he's been there for about 5 or 6 years now. Absolutely loves it. But we ended up going to go through the sniper indoc together, and what that looks like, it's like a week long indoc, and it's kind of a non traditional indoc because they try to figure out when they can kind of get guys through to come into the platoon because it's a very tight knit platoon. And so we did about a week long, and they kind of put you through different types of stressful environments, learn a lot of different skill sets you're not really too familiar with. And then fast forward, had the opportunity to go to sniper school, and then had the even better opportunity to lead a sniper team throughout two deployments there, which was awesome. And so that's where I kind of really gained the skill of like briefing, because we had the opportunity to get in front of commanders, and you get to brief your team's capabilities, like what can you do, and what's the risk assessment of putting your team out there, and all this other good stuff. So I learned a lot of valuable um, things about myself on how I can kind of lead a team, and then also a lot of different valuable skill sets as well.
So, as our viewers are looking at your long flowing hair in the back, they got to provide an update where you're currently at with your reservist career.
Yeah, so I took a break. I just got out of the reserves probably about 5 or 6 months ago, and just to take a little break, just to kind of ground myself down. I actually just moved from California to Austin, Texas, and I'm in the process this week of actually buying my very first home. So
Congrats, that's big,
super
huge.
super excited, and honestly, it's been a really streamlined process, and I would have to say, a lot of the benefits that you get from being a serviceman. Um, is really coming through. So yeah.
So, you have an Associates of Science in Business Administration from Coastline College and a BBA from Westcliff College. How did these degrees help prepare you for a position with a Fortune 50 company?
Yeah, good question, Lloyd. I would say, you know, a lot of my experience, and I always go back to this, was my military career, because I spent my early 20s and some of my early, or all my 20s, and then some of my early 30s. And so I have a lot of experience with, on the ground kind of leading teams throughout that. But I would say, as I transition to the corporate world, you go and you show commitment in a different area, and whether that's courses, LinkedIn Learning, or college or university. And so I would say the skill sets are a lot more tailored to what I'm doing now on a day to day basis. And so uh, you know, just kind of a different take, but commitment in a different way, I think goes along a lot further.
So, why a career in talent acquisition?
That is a really good question. I never seen myself going through and being on the talent acquisition side, and it's kind of a story here. And I, during my transition out of active duty in 2021, I became a yoga instructor at that time, and which is really, it was weird, it was I, if you were to ask myself would I ever be a yoga instructor, no. But honestly, it helped me transition, and I think we had this conversation before, but it helped me transition, being a little bit more silent in your mind, and helping with overall, the things that you kind of hold on to. But I was teaching a class in California, and one of my students was just so happened to be the global head for talent acquisitions for Accenture at the time, and he took my class, and we were kind of um, having a conversation. Come to find out, he used to be a Marine in the early '80s as well, and I would have never thought about that, or even that would have never even came up if we just never really spoken, talked it through, and networked in that way. And I know we'll talk about that as well, but like networking. Um, but yeah, long story short, we went through, had a cup of probably two kind of planned coffee meetups, and then from there offered me the position. And then at that time, the project was with UPS. So during the external recruiting for UPS, and then it just happened to be such a streamline to where I am now, right into the position.
Yeah, I love that networking story. And I teach classes in networking to veterans and non-veterans, and I talk about the importance of networking. 65% of jobs that are out there aren't even posted. So
Yeah.
you get visibility of both posted and unposted jobs
Mhm.
through making connections. And sometimes it's not that first connection. Sometimes that first connection will introduce you to a second or even a third connection,
Yeah.
and connecting is powerful.
And
So as Go ahead.
we actually had that conversation too, with remember when we had Alex Witt on as well, and he said something that really sticks with me to this day. Alex Witt, the CEO of the Battle Bars protein bar company, veteran as well. But he had mentioned that kind of something that sticks with me today is like, have conversations with people, be curious, and have these conversations. But like at the end of the day, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to make a new friend. So I thought that was really insightful whenever he brought that up.
Yeah, Alex is amazing,
Yeah,
and be curious. If you're a Ted Lasso fan,
yeah,
you know the strength of being curious.
yeah.
So, what is your favorite part about working as a recruiter?
I would say the connections that I build over time, and I get to see everybody that's kind of like hungry and willing and wanting to kind of push forward in their careers. And I think the most satisfaction part of that is just really building connections that maybe there's nothing now. Maybe we don't have anything now, but connections for even down the road when some new positions open up, or maybe even from a different company. Like, hey, I spoke with this other veteran, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for your company. So I would say the greatest thing is these connections that you kind of build throughout. And I think I have that other story too with Mark, one of our new veteran employees that just got hired here recently. And I love telling this story as well because he came through being curious through LinkedIn, and he just kind of made it through every kind of barrier, every kind of message, and then um, found his way right through. And I love telling the timeline because I think it was like May of this year he reached out through LinkedIn, and then fast forward, a few weeks, I think we had him already with an interview with the hiring manager. And then, it aligned for his transition. And then we had him, I think he started with us, I think it was July or the 1st of July, which was awesome. So,
Yeah, and you just had lunch with them.
yeah. So Mark and I just had lunch. So this is a candidate or a potential candidate at the time that reached out through LinkedIn, through doing his own network, being curious on LinkedIn, and then made his way from an employee to yourself as well, Lloyd, the head of veteran talent acquisition at UPS, and then to me, hiring manager, and then all the way right into where he is now.
Yeah, yeah, it was such a cool story, and I want to kind of unpack some of the things you said on networking, and connecting and being curious. One of the best quotes I've heard here lately is don't be focused on the transaction when you're networking. Be focused on the relationship.
Hmm.
And by focusing on the relationships, it's going to be a little bit more strategic versus a one-time connection.
Right.
So now we have veterans, so service members. So maybe you have a service member that is a year out, and they're starting. Hey, either going to be getting out of the service, or I'm going to be retiring. What should they be? How should they start preparing a full year out?
Yeah, and I actually this is a really good question because I think I read an article yesterday about this on LinkedIn, and it was talking about the importance of, 6 months is it's not enough. You learn your MOS sometimes in the 6 month training that you're in, and then after that you have to go to work doing your MOS that you've spent 6 months learning. And so the article was going, even before that, really start to figure out what you want to do and how you want to show up with if you plan on transitioning. But I would say to answer that question, like finding out your why ahead of time. That way, you're not kind of spinning your wheels when you do transition. But like, figure out what you're passionate about. Figure out what drives you. What drives you to wake up in the morning. And I'm a huge advocate of journaling. There's so many other different prompts out there that really kind of you touch on you get into a quiet space and kind of figure out really what you're passionate about. Whether that's connecting with people or whether that's it could be based off of what the income that you want, but find out your why, kind of as you're about that 1 year mark out, and then do kind of like a SWOT analysis on yourself. I think that's a huge tool that a lot of people kind of don't really utilize. But like, figure out your strengths, figure out your weaknesses, and then off that SWOT analysis, start to figure out your skill sets that you can bring to the table, and that you can really thrive at. And so I would say those are really two key points that I would say about a year out, really starting to figure out.
Yeah, great point. And my advice is going to be to start connecting with resources.
Yeah.
The great thing is there's an abundance of free resources that are available today, a
Mhm.
lot more than when I made the transition 17 years ago. And I'm going to give you a couple resources now, and this is not an exclusive list. And this
Yeah.
is a list of partnerships that we have in our role at UPS and that I strongly believe in. So the first one is Hire Heroes USA. And if you don't know about Hire Heroes, check out the audio episode number 2 of the landing zone. We had Elena Competore, and we talk all about Hire Heroes and resume. They offer free resumes to veteran service members and spouses. They've got a great format. They're going to do a wonderful job of translating what you did in the military. So
Mhm.
arm yourself with a good resume. Arm yourself with a mentor. American Corporate Partners will provide you a free mentor for a full year.
Yeah.
And so a year out is a perfect time to start that. 4 block, if you've
Yeah.
are in college in your last semester, or even if you've separated, 4 block, a lot of veterans, when they're leaving the military, they're focused on, maybe going to college and
Mhm.
2, 3, 4 years down the road. And now they need some transition assistance, and you can't go back on the base. So 4 block offers a whole semester worth of transition assistance, and they have in-person and virtual options.
Yeah.
And then another new one for Eric and I that we're working on is Microsoft Software and Systems Academy.
Yeah, we
So
actually had that yesterday.
yeah, we
Or,
yeah we had a
Friday.
yeah Friday we had our first job fair. So if you haven't checked that out, it's 16 weeks of training while you're still on active duty, and it's a really cool resources. So go find out what's available, what's going to work best for you, and then start planning on using these resources.
Mhm.
So, Eric, we talked a lot about LinkedIn. Is it really that important?
Yeah, I would say, you know, LinkedIn, if you really think about LinkedIn, like overall, like what is it really doing? How positive, when you think of it as a social media platform, it is so positive. And I was kind of thinking about this morning. It's so positive. You're out there, whether you want to better your career, you're connecting, you're networking. but LinkedIn provides you yourself as you transition, like it's a platform for you to really start to brand yourself, to really start to take. We use fit reps, what we would call in the Marine Corps, where you write your achievements down, you write your um, all the things you've done for the year for that. But this is your chance now. Like you can put it on a social media platform where you can really start to brand yourself and start to network and be curious, just like Mark did here recently. I love that story, but um, yeah, it's an amazing branding tool for you to really endless possibilities if you want to project and go further in your career. If you're looking for something else, there's LinkedIn courses for better education. It is just so positively like driven, and I love LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's a free resource, and if you're a service member, veteran, it's you can have the premium job seeker a membership for a full year. Unfortunately, it's just 1 year now. So Microsoft, if you're listening, please make that an unlimited for veterans and more than just the 1 year subscription. But it's your marketing and advertising platform.
Hmm.
It's also, if you're listening specifically to hear about resumes, your resume is a max of 2 pages. So
Yeah,
what I love about LinkedIn is your page 3, 4, 5, and 6,
yeah.
and it's a great way
I
to
love how you
add
put that.
additional content. It's really your master resume.
Yeah, I love how you put that, and you'll notice, like you've had gone through where you applied. Next thing you know, you have a recruiter or a hiring manager taking a look at your page. So it's super important that you really take the time and you start to organize your page, make it look neat and make it organized. And I know that there's software out there called LinkedIn Recruiter on LinkedIn that recruiters utilize just based off of keywords. So let's say we're looking for project managers in the area. If you have those keywords inside of there, you're going to be one of those ones that pop up on some of our searches there. So really dive into there on what we just talked about, like what you're passionate about, and whether it's for example project management or recruiting or whatever it is. Those are some of those key words that you should probably have on your page there.
Yeah, excellent advice, Eric. So let's turn to job fairs because a lot of service members, when they're going to leave and looking for their next career, will go to a job fair.
Hmm.
I certainly went to several when I was transitioning in my role at UPS and previously in my role, all the things I've done with Ventland, I've been to lots of job fairs. Can you offer some best practices?
Yeah, for sure. And I think we have a few coming up. And I've actually never met Lloyd in person, so I'm
That's
excited to
crazy. Yeah,
finally
me
meet
too.
Lloyd in. I think it's in Texas as well, coming up in the fall time frame. Um, but I would say, have a game plan, because when recruiters and the team, the staff comes to a job fair, they have a game plan for you, right? We have open jobs that we're really trying to source and recruit for. We spoke with hiring managers. This is kind of our game plan. This is what we're trying to do. So I would say on the individual level, really have a game plan for yourself. Like, what is your end mission on coming out of this job fair? Is it to maybe network? Is it to get some contact information to follow up with? So I would say the number one thing, right, is really have a game plan when you show up. Number two, dress accordingly, right? Like this is your appearance in front of the company face for the very first time, and so dress accordingly to casual or whatever that setting is for that. So dress accordingly, dress very nice and neat.
Yeah.
um, and the biggest thing I would say for a job fair is, while you have this valuable contact information, is really is it's all the most important thing is the follow up. When you have that information organized, um, how do you follow up? Is it have a strategic game plan that Monday morning 8 a.m. after that job fair, this I'm sending that follow up email to thank them. and just let them know that you're very excited to hopefully, have the opportunity or something in the future. So yeah.
Yeah, great advice. So my advice is know the logistics, where you're going, what time it starts, what the dress code is, how do you get in, arrive early if possible. And then the biggest one is give your elevator pitch.
Yeah.
I am always shocked at when I get approached at a job fair and they walk up and go, "What jobs do you have?"
Yeah.
And this is your chance to make a great first impression. And how you do that is a well-defined and articulated elevator pitch. And we're going to do a podcast in the very near future that focuses on elevator pitches. So, hey, now we have if any of our viewers or listeners on the audio side are interested in a career at UPS, how do they contact you?
Yeah, I would say just follow me on LinkedIn there. Just like I get quite a few LinkedIn messages, and I'm very good with responding back. So yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, and then that'll kind of that curiosity will spark something else.
Wow, Eric, can you believe we're already out of time?
I
So
know, huh?
these things just fly by, especially when we're doing it on video.
I
Do you have
know.
any closing comments for our viewers?
I would say I'm super excited. As transition and members come through, take the time. There's so many awesome resources out there. Um, take the time, find your purpose, find your passion, find your why. Have a strategic plan on how you want to go about this. Utilize those resources out there, and really excited for any as you transition, because for my transition, it's been great. I've had amazing opportunities, but I would say I wouldn't have these opportunities if I wasn't curious. So yeah.
Curious is the word for today. So
Yeah.
great. Well, I look forward to meeting you in person, and that's just two
Yeah.
weeks away in San Antonio. So looking forward to doing that. Thanks, Eric, for appearing on the Landing Zone. Thanks to our viewers and joining the very first video podcast episode. Please help us spread the word via social media, email, and with your connections. And with that, I'm going to close it by saying be safe, be kind, and be remarkable.